Good morning. I don't know if you can tell by this camera, but this nib, you can tell a little bit there. The nib has a little bit of a bend in it, but I did a really nice job of making it look a lot better than it does now with my handy tools. I'll show you the before picture. I should have taken a picture of it before, but I didn't. So here's our nib. Let's get some ink here. It had I don't know if you're seeing the whole thing here. Just focus on the front of the bow of the nib. So here's our breather hole, and here's our nib. And this is the ideal nib, would be straight across. Well, this one had a sort of shape like this. So think of plate tectonics or something. You need the sound effects like that. So the side view of the nib, the ideal nib here, well, this nib went up and sort of like this. Which, unfortunately, fortunately, no, we'll just leave it unfortunately. It needed to be repaired. It did write to a degree without me screwing it up trying to fix it. It did actually write, but the breather hole, the breather channel from the breather hole to the point sort of had a gap in it like this, which the inflow would not work. This has to be narrow or non-existent. Now it may be, it's hard to tell because it's in the pen, there might be a slight little gap there, but it's working fine for me right now. Nice springy nib. Now I could continue to try to flatten it out a little bit more. You still see that little crease. Come on. But the more you fuss, I was going to use another FU kind of word, the more you fuss with a pen nib, the more you, the potential of screwing it up is more probable. Well, for me screwing it up. Now maybe there's other people that guarantee that they won't screw up a pen, and I don't know if anyone offers that guarantee, because playing around with a 100-year-old piece of metal is, I don't think you can't guarantee anything. But it has a really, really fine, and a rather nice broad. No, it's not a wet noodle nib. I don't have it filled, which is why it's doing that. I'm just dipping it. But the fine is what really makes this pen hum. This cap has this huge breather hole there, which is not supposed to be there. This was a shop window. Sometimes you see pens and barrels that have that huge hole in the middle, and these were shop window display parts. The barrel is not a shop window display, but this is. So, when it's sitting in the shop window. They would put fake pens in the window so people wouldn't steal them. They would know not to break the window. Well, if they did break the window and grabbed them, they'd end up with a bunch of pens that don't work. They often had non-gold nibs, just painted gold metal, not even gold fill. They were just really crappy metal, which was enough to lure people in from the street to look at the pen, I guess. But anyway, shop windows. But a really, really nice nib. Let's try another nib here, just for fun, since I've got your attention. Here's a little Schaefer, bulldoggy kind of a lady's pen. What kind of nib does it have? Nice springy. Does it say warranted or Schaefer number 2? What does that say? Schaefer. Schaefer 2 self-filling. Nice springy nib. Yes, come on. Again, I'm dipping in an inkwell that doesn't have very much ink. Springy. Springy nib. I don't know, why is it that these are so much fun, fountain pens? Well, that's obvious answer. Just look at what you can do with them. Just try another nib. These are pens that are on my desk that I use. I have a collection of pens, or a collection of these replacement clips, because there were a lot of interesting designs used for these as well. And this clip in many ways is an improvement over the original Waterman, because you can easily put it in your pocket because it's spring loaded. What kind of nib does this have? Very fine and somewhat very fine and just barely flexible. My cuff is hitting a piece of paper here. Let me move this around. This doesn't say accountant nib, but accountant nibs are often like this. They're made very fine and just slightly flexible, so you can write your numbers in the little spaces that ledger books provided for your profits and your losses. Yeah, see this, the fine on this one, it's fine when you go fast, but it's not very fine when you write slowly. You know, it's 1, 2, but if you wrote 1, 2, those fines are a little finer because you have room to maneuver. When you're writing like this, I guess you can do it, but you have to really pay attention. It's hard to make lines thin when you're writing small. Let's see. Let's get back to this one that I fixed. How does this write small? One, 2, 3. That fine is pretty fine. Let's write a big number. 8. 8. 80. Let's make a bigger number than that. 87,000. 87,003. No, THREE. 87,003. And no cents. See, EIGHTY. All of these lines are thick, but the capital E, because I have speed and space as my friend, I'm able to get a really fine line. When I write small, and I'm trying to hold the pen lightly, fine lines aren't as fine as the writing big and fast lines are. That's an E. 77 Sunset Strip. How do you like that for alliteration? I never watched that show. That seemed too adult for my tender eyes when that was on TV. I've been very much enjoying Route 66. Route 66. Reruns. Well, not reruns. You find them on YouTube. Some guy on episode number 1, the pilot, some rich old man slaps Buzz across the face. Buzz played by George Maharis. And George Maharis responds, I've been hit harder but by dames. That was a good line. I've been hit harder by dames. Perfect. A friend of mine says, why? Pen collector friend says, why did they need to improve on this pen, the Waterman 12? WATERMAN DWELVE. Waterman 12. So that was a good save with my little anvil. And I should, while I'm on a kick of doing that, I should try to fix some of the other nibs I have that are doing poorly. What does this one do? Another slip-on clip. This is a Waterman 55, which meant a number 5 size nib in a lever pen. Now, is that just dirt or is there a crack in there? Hard to know. Let's see what kind of nib this has. This is in a drawer of pens that is not marked. I do have drawers of pens that are marked with fine and flexible and broad, but this is the one that just is a catch-all. This is what these are. The pens in this drawer are pens I like to do drawings with. and I have to do lots of drawings. And this one, usually pens that I do drawings with, I like to have very rounded balls at the end. So if I go in this direction when I'm drawing by accident, if I push that way, I'm not going to damage the pen. If I did that with this pen, I think I'd rip the paper or break the nib. But this one, even that it is a very fine nib, it has a nice rounded point to it. So if this pen were to be sold to someone, this would go to a lefty would like it. Whether you were a pusher or a hooker, pusher is someone who pushes like this, writes with their hand, toward their body here. They do this. The hooker are the people that write like that. But in both cases, well, in the hooker case, you tend to be writing against the grain most of the time. You're pushing the pen in the direction it doesn't want to go. Here, you're pushing the pen on the upstrokes, but not on the side strokes. As you're going in this direction, you're going sideways and down. It's this direction that it doesn't really want to go. And when you're right-handed, you know to lift up on the upstroke and press down on the downstroke. Well, when you're writing like this with a hook, it's going sideways and it's going in this direction. It rarely goes in that direction unless you're underlining something. So the pen is always going the direction it least likes to go when you're a lefty. But this pen, because of its rounded point, it's not all that unhappy when it's going in that direction. Some pens, you can tell by listening to them very carefully that that's not what they want to do. Now this pen, Lee Snyder. I love that. Lee Snyder was a car salesman, and he smoked a cigar that was almost as big as his pen. But when it came time to sign the contract, he was able to write his name swankily. Oops, come on, dip in the ink. Again, there's so little ink in this pot that I'm using. I have to sort of be very careful where I... Lee Snyder. And he added, of course I'm making all of this up, I don't know Lee Snyder from A Cake of Soap, but based on the way, the choice of lettering he chose at the Engraving R Us shop, kiosk, or whatever, at the Schaefer store, when he bought this pen and had his name put on it, he wanted something big and bold and simple. Lee Snyder. But then he also chose a very fancy nib that allowed him to write his name with flourish. Which is surprising, because you'd think Lee Snyder would have liked a nib like this one. This is the sort of nib that you'd expect to see in that pen, with that big old name. It's a big fat nib like this, Lee Snyder. this one had a good set of teeth. Look at that. I have one pen, I don't know where it is right now, otherwise I'd show you, but the teeth marks are all in the middle. Like there was no gag reflex. There were no teeth marks here. They were way in here. So whoever owned that pen shoved it pretty far into their pie hole and then started munching at it. Pie hole. Another good pen for drawing. This is a Skyline nib in a Wall Eversharp pen, a pen a decade earlier. But really nice. I can be aggressive with this nib. I can really push it around without worry. Lee Snyder's nib is a little too flexible for that. Doesn't really belong in this drawer. J.R. Townsend Jr. Well-loved pen, all the very worn lettering or plating wear on this thing. Another really nice nib. J.R. Jr. And this was given to J.R. Jr. for 40 weeks only at the Equitable Life Insurance Company. And a friend of mine, Rob Morrison, I said, gee, they got a pretty, J.R. Townsend Jr. got a pretty nice pen for only 40 weeks of work. And Rob Morrison figured out why that was the case, because J.R. Townsend Sr. was the owner of the company. So, hence the largesse given to someone who only worked there for that. Normally, a pen like this would be given to someone after 40 years of service. J.R. Townsend. Townsend, the T. I have a hard time with W's. They turn into just ups and downs, and I forget that they have to go that way at the other end. Townsend. Townsend. I tend to be lazy, and they just do this. And at some point, I'll do what the letter that comes after. There's always, if someone did a bump count on my lettering, you'd find that there's probably 10% bump loss in my M's and N's and W's and V's, all of those short little ups and downs. There's a bumpectomy that happens. So if you actually read what I wrote, it would be Townsend, Tonside, almost, probably. Tonsseid, rather than Townsend. There'd probably be all sorts of bumps missing. So don't look at my calligraphy too closely. It's a good thing I don't write contracts, because they'd always be in court. No, you didn't sell me this. You sold this to Mr. Townside, not Townsend. Case dismissed. Case closed. Case whatever. Whatever happens to lawsuits. There you go. That's enough babbling this morning. Toodaloo.